You're listening to WKDWRadio.com and KDWRadio.com. I said it twice. You're listening to KDW Radio. How about that? 97.5 FM. And I've gotten it so right for 3 years, and that was the worst intro ever. But guess what? It's Friday. You might as well have some fun with it. If you're riding out there on the roads, really just take your time, relax, and really get home safe. It's Friday night. There's no reason to get crazy. There's a couple really good concerts out there in listening land. I know that No Filter is playing over at Twisted Fork, and that's going to be amazing. They do a great show. So if you're heading that way, take your time, get there easy. Parking is abundant over there now. They've kind of got some lots cleared and different areas for you to park. But take your time tonight. Just be safe and take care of everyone else out there, and including your loved ones. I've got a very, very special guest in the house who I know is actually going to agree with me on the safety factor. As Carmine, how are you doing, Carmine?
Good to see you, John. I'm doing well, thank you.
So tell us. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, in your mentioning to everybody to be careful and stuff. Yes, please do that and enjoy the beautiful weather because it's just beautiful out.
Oh, it is. It's amazing. But in fact, I think it's 76 right now, and it's probably not going to be that way kind of tomorrow or the next day, but it's going to be a lot warmer. So enjoy it. I mean, this is perfect sweatshirt weather. Maybe this evening, get down in the 60s, listen to a good concert, listen to some live music, and watch a fantastic sunset. Awesome. So we've got Northport Forawrd in the house, and I've had you guys on before, and I kind of want you to wrap your hands around some of the things that you've been doing to really ignite citizens of Northport.
Okay. For folks that have, this is Friday the 25th. It's the fourth week. Normally we're on the third week. And, if we on the third week, might be some new folks on today. I just want to talk a little bit about what Northport Forawrd is, how we got started really quick, and then get into what we're doing for the citizens. Northport Forawrd incorporated in the state of Florida in March of 2020, and we became a 501c3 organization. Our mission is to shape the future of Northport. And the central tenet of our mission is to provide factual information, to encourage dialogue, so that our residents have a voice in the future of Northport. So with that, we are an all-volunteer, non-political community organization. I'd like to add that we are looking for community-minded residents to join us in our mission. We accept donations to enable us to partner with other nonprofits here in Northport to be able to help out in the community. So we also had a couple of members leave our organization who had a calling to serve the community in a much larger capacity. One of those is your current vice mayor and the commissioner for District 2, Barbara Langdon. And in the process now for November of this year, we had another who decided to run for city commission District 5, and that's David Pankey. So we wish David well. I'm sure he'll do very well. And so with that, Northport Forawrd basically, we inform the residents on things such as you see on the screen, quality of life issues, fiscal responsibility, transparency in government, job growth, and economic development. And we educate by providing factual information and, again, by encouraging dialogue so that our citizens have a voice in the growth of Northport. And hopefully we want to inspire our residents by encouraging our citizens to become more in the city and making our city a great place to live, work, and raise a family while we enjoy this beautiful environment and the beautiful weather that we have here in Northport. So to get started on what we're doing, We met the new city manager in October of 21 at a event, and the opportunity to partner with the city slowly evolved from there. The city wanted to get out into the community to deliver their message, and Northport Forward's mission, again, factual information, encouraging dialogue. It seemed like a great fit. Together with the city, Northport Forwards established a Meet and Mingle series. And with that, what we're doing is the city manager, the district commissioner of of their district, and the city staff. We bring the city out to the residents' backyard. We've held sessions, two Meet and Mingle series sessions, one in District 5 at the Island Walk development. And the second one we did was District 2 at the Shannon Staub Library. Now we're working with the city to set up future Meet and Mingles. The next one is scheduled at the Cypress Falls community on April 26th. So we are also working with our commissioners, Alice, Jill, Pete, and Debbie, to have future Meet and Mingles in their districts. So some of the venues that we're using, like the Island Walk and now the next one coming up, Cypress Falls, are closed community. The HOAs will be doing the registration portion of it, and it's limited to the residents of those communities. But we are also looking at public venues where we will be putting out on our event calendar and also on our Facebook page, where citizens can go and register for these. And by doing so, if it happens to be a District 1 or a District 4 event, anyone from any of the districts can participate. And we encourage everyone to come out, meet the city manager, get to know your district commissioner, because there's a lot of new people that have moved into Northport. And if you look around, going on, there's a lot of houses going in. So a lot of new citizens, and a lot of them don't know who their government representatives are.
Well, and I'm going to step back for a second, because some of these things that you're doing is really to attach the citizens to the community, isn't it?
It's all part of, and the city manager had coined this very well. It's a community of unity, and with what's going on in the world today, it's about time that we all start looking to get along with each other, work together, because working together we are stronger and we can get things done. And if we just leave it up to government to take care of us, then what winds up happening down the road made, and it happens to affect our taxes, our millage rate, then people react. And that's not the position you want to be in. You want to be proactive. You want to work with the city. You want to let them know the things that you want to see in the city. And by working together, we can actually define a city that works for everybody. And we're 104 square miles. It's a large city. It's probably one of the largest cities in Florida, definitely in Sarasota County. But there's something here for everybody. And so we can all work together to make that the best place we can be. And I call that the best resident experience.
Well, and some of the things that come out into the open dialogue at those events, I mean, they turn into policy at sometimes down the road, and it really enlightens even the city manager to open dialogue, even a different way with the rest of the city commissioners overall. Don't you think that is a valuable piece of the puzzle that we've kind of been missing the last few years?
I believe so. I know personally, my wife and I moved here 9 years ago, and I had moved here with the intent of enjoying the beautiful weather and what Florida has to offer, and visiting with family and doing some traveling. And so we really didn't pay that much attention to what was in the city. And as you know, as we became more and more acclimated and learned about the city, and met different people some who were involved in city life, we felt that it was important for us to get involved because we started to see things that, for one thing, you get higher taxes and everybody right away. It's like, no, this is not why we came here. So that's why I'm advocating for people to get involved. I mean, there's the city, so the county to get involved in. There's things going on in Florida, like the infrastructure, the water quality, and things like that nature. It's always good to become aware of your surroundings, aware of what's going on, the potential to help, the government, to help other, in our own communities. So it's to me, it's a good practice to get involved. Too many times we hide behind our keyboard. We look at stuff going on. We say things on Facebook that we tend to attack one another, and that's not what we're all about. I mean, this is a great city. My wife and I, we made an investment to come down here. We bought a home here, and this is where we're spending what we're calling our golden years, and enjoy life and to make new friends and to learn different things. And it's good for all of us to do that. And there's a multitude of backgrounds here, people who have professional, degrees, people who support the communities in many, many ways. And there's young families, there's older people, and we could all learn from each other. And that's kind of what Northport Forward is about. Let's get back to the basics of, let's have a dialogue. Let's listen to each other. There is no one way of doing something. And if somebody has a different way, we shouldn't be jumping down people's throats. It doesn't fit with what it is that we know and what we've been doing. So that's what we're about.
And I like the adjustment because you've got every city. I don't want to say us, because every city has it. They have groups out there, and they are in power because they tend to dominate a topic more than others, and then they find out that they have power in the few numbers. And I say few because it's all perspective. Until we get our citizens educated on voting, and then get them educated on how to vote and what to vote for and how it's going to affect them, which is exactly what you're trying to do with all the data that you're collecting. People need to understand that they have a source to come to that is really impartial. Come to you guys, get yourself at least a good baseline education on certain topics. And isn't it true that people could actually ask you guys what is the hot topic out there? What is happening on Toledo Blade? And then you guys kind of go to work on that, right?
That is correct, John. If you go out to our website, there are several ways that you can communicate with us. And some of those ways are, we have a website out there, which is www.northport. You can mail us a letter, if you will, to Northport Forward Inc. at P.O. Box 6832, Northport, Florida 34290. You can call us and leave a message at 941-888-0134. And then we also have an email, northportforward@gmail.com. And it's out also on Facebook. Go to Northport Forward, www.facebook.com, Northport Forward. So there's several ways of getting in touch with us. And, that's why we're looking for new people too, to do some research with us, to get some information. And we post everything that we possibly can on our website. And as an example, the last time we were on your show, I talked about an article that appeared in the Charlotte And it had to do with the fact that Tallahassee was working on a bigger than usual budget this year because of COVID, because that we remained open, and also because of the government, the federal government, PPE money and such, that we had a massive budget of about $112 billion. Governor asked his, representatives and Senate people to work together. Let's look at what is needed out there in Florida. What are the priorities, and let's address those issues. So one of the articles, it was in, and I'm going to read a couple of highlights from it. I'm not reading the whole article because it's a foot and a half long, and it was on the opinion page in March 17th, Sun newspaper. And it basically says here that Florida lawmakers were blessed with an abundance of cash this year as they met in Tallahassee the past 2 months for their annual session. So the record $112 billion budget that let's give the legislature credit for addressing some important issues. Now, like water quality. It says that the money allocated to clean up wastewater plants, systems, and other water-related costs is probably the most ever spent in Florida on this type of project. So apparently, this article, I think, reached a lot of folks in Florida. I know I was advocating and put out on our website for people to go to a sample letter to send to their representatives. And for those people who did that, I thank you wholeheartedly. It looks like more money went to water quality, and that's all that we were trying to get as an end result. It's not going to be fixed overnight, but the more focus and the more people learn about these things, we can help each other. And again, make this the best resident experience in Florida.
Well, when you're trying to set these things up, and we had a conversation last week, and really it was interesting because I know for a fact you thought you didn't have a whole lot of information to share, but I even told you, I said, no, we just did like 20 minutes, 25, 30 minutes, just having an open dialogue because we hadn't talked for a while. I want to step back for a second and go to that town hall meeting that you had. And I want you to explain really what that was like, because the West Villages by itself is always kind of like the thorn right now. And I think our city manager has embraced that whole area totally different upon his arrival than people, I think, anticipated. And I really think he's embracing that area as part of our city as it should be. And he's trying to build bonds. Can you kind of talk a little bit about what happened in that meeting and what you thought about it during and after?
Okay. Yes, we met at the Island Walk development, and there were the residents of Island Walk, and some of them had invited residents in Grand Paradiso and other developments that make up Welland Park. Naturally, the topic on everybody's mind was the annexation, and our city manager basically from the get-go basically said, we are in litigation. There are certain things that we cannot talk about and discuss here. And everybody understood that. And you're right. The city manager wanted to get out there, especially, he's bought a home there. He's having a home built there. He's going to be living there. So, and everything that's been going on, he's done his homework. He understands, the concerns of the residents there. And so, we introduced the commissioner, it was the mayor, Pete Emmerich, who spoke for a few minutes. And then we introduced the city manager, who did a presentation which talked about, the benefits of being in Northport, the things that Northport are doing out there in Welland Park, the investments that are being made. There's a whole building out there for fire EMT and police. New vehicles are being put out there. The response time, the way it's all zoned out, they're putting more manpower in that area. And so a lot of the residents, were listening to this attentively. And then we had probably a 45-minute question and answer session. And, it went very well. You still had some of the misinformation, some of the opinions and things like, one, I was told that I live in Venice. And, the city manager listened to all of the, and, basically for the one in Venice, the city of Northport reached out to the postal and the federal government to see about getting that address changed. In other words, make it from Venice to Northport, because yes, it is in Northport. The reason why they're saying that zip is Venice is because the Postal Service does not have a facility to deliver mail to those patrons in Northport. They use one in Venice. So that zip code is for postal delivery. It doesn't say that you live in Venice, you live in Northport. So eloquently, he listened to their concerns. He told them that we tried having it changed, but the post office declined. They didn't want to make that change. We talked about the appropriation of money and, how it's not being spent correctly and stuff of that nature. And, pointed out. And then we had, Kimberly Williams from the finance group basically get up and talk about, Northport, the city of Northport has had about 18 years of satisfactory results. And they look at all aspects of their financial reporting and for 18 years they got best practices. So they must be doing something correct. We talked about a whole bunch of different things, like residents asked. I heard that the Brian Laundrie case cost the city multi-millions of dollars, and so the assistant chief Morales got up and talked about that, and basically mentioned that it was only $100,000 in expenses for that case. Complained that the distance between homes is too close for environmental reasons, and the city manager agreed. But that's not up to the city. That's up to the developers and stuff. And they tried to get as many homes on a piece of land that they possibly can. So right. Yes, it's an environmental issue. When we left, the feeling. We actually had Victor Dobrin, who is one of the leaders of the West Villages for Responsible Government, stand up and thank the city for coming out and informing the city and speaking with the city, with the residents in Island Walk, and for meeting with the residents. Like, they felt like they mattered. And the city manager said, look, whatever happens with the litigation, no matter which way it goes, we will always come out to service you. And if it changes, it goes to the county. And if the county needs help, we will come out and help you, just as if you were our own citizens. This is not only Northport, a community of unity. He's looking at the entire county. He's looking at the state of Florida. We all need to work together. So the vibe that he delivered, it was very positive. And at the end of it, he put his phone number, his text number, up there on the screen. If any individual had any concerns, that he would answer, but you had to text him. And he would answer by either text or he would send that text to one of his staff who are aptly qualified to get the resident an answer and respond. So he's putting himself out there, which I view this as the city really making it. It's turned the corner. It's really making, and then partnering with Northport Forward to deliver these mingles, to get out into the public and deliver their message. It's a good fit.
And I want you to talk a little bit because I think it's very valuable information for people to understand that, yes, while you're doing a lot of this research and people are helping you do a lot of the research and gather all the data and try to educate people along the way, but you have built this relationship now with City Hall and Mr. Fletcher, and really talk about what that bond between your organization and City Hall means, and why you think it's going to make a difference now.
Well, it's pretty much the mission of Northport Forward is putting factual information out there, and that could be, in the form of a written word. That could be, the written word posted on Facebook, posted on our website. But the biggest thing is getting out into the public and having that level of conversation, getting subject matter expert, getting the information directly from the horse's mouth, so to speak, so that people can see, and they can see how the city manager handles himself, how he presented the information. They can see the support that his staff provided in putting together that presentation, and how they stand up and they speak when it comes into their subject matter of expertise. And they're very eloquent and very articulate in addressing the questions of the residents. And in leaving both in District 5 at Allen Walk and the one in District 2 at Shannon Stump Library, the comments that we received was the public thought the event was definitely worth their time. They definitely learned something about their city and about their city manager and about their commissioners and about the staff. And they appreciated Northport Forward for putting this event on and bringing the city into their backyard.
Well, and I'll say this because, no matter how hard you guys are working at it, there's about an 8 to 10 year advantage on the misinformation side. And I touched that lightly because I'm in real estate. I understand a lot of the misinformation that was out there. I've been at the sales table. I've heard what has been said, and I've had to correct what has been said because, and also people need to understand a couple things. And I want to highlight this because I'm a realtor and because I'm not a sales guy that work for builders. The sales guys that work for builders, while they have a license, they don't hang it in a brokerage. They hang it with a builder, and they work for the builder. They are allowed to say what the builder says to tell them. And if the builder doesn't hold them accountable for misinformation, it's not the same as a real estate agent or broker that works for a broker that has their license hung that way. So this information that's out there has been percolating so long and has wrapped its ugly hands around people to the point where with 8 years or more of entrenching bad information, and then it gets people fired up that think they need to correct it. There's really the only thing you need to correct is the misinformation. It's not the city itself. And while I love my city, I understand what they're doing, but I'm glad that we're actually out there now changing the narrative, because they've had plenty of time to create their own narrative and stir people up. It's about time we come along with the real facts and how that whole property We voted it in 20 plus years ago. I was here for that. I voted for it. We annexed it in. And we're the ones who did that. It wasn't anybody else that forced our hands. It was the fact that we did that. And can you talk a little bit about the history real quick? And I'm going to be right back, okay? But go ahead and tell people a little bit about that.
Well, I know that was the Taylor Ranch area. I'm by far not a subject matter expert. I'm only here about 9 years, and there are a lot of people living in Northport and working in government that have been here. I have been and know the true history. The little bit of research I did on that, because I kept seeing things, comments being made on Nextdoor about, this is not Northport, this is Venice. And so I did a little digging, and I know the Taylor Ranch, the land was sold to Academy Homes. They, I guess back in 2003 or 2004, the post office created that zip code for mail delivery in that area. That's prior to any building that we know of that's going on at the current, that make up, the Welland Park community. And pretty much that's really all that I have at this point, John, on it. Like I said, I'm only here 9 years. I've done very little research, just wanting to figure out what it meant by, we're in Venice versus Northport. And that's pretty much it.
Well, and here's just a few facts that are out there, that I'll hit on. Then I'm going to move on because, people who are moving into a community, it is also not just the salespeople's responsibility to find out where they live. It is truly the person who's buying. Buyer beware. Realtors overall are held to a different standard. We cannot mislead. We've had that same incidents happen with Toledo Blade, and the boulevards in Northport, when people found out that a boulevard was going to be 4 lanes. I just happen to come from a city, and I think most people here who migrate in understand what a boulevard is. But all of a sudden, they move to Northport, and they think a boulevard is 2 lanes, and it's never going to change. And the extra 500 feet they gave me in the front of my house is all mine for free, and it's not. It's part of a road eventually going to be there. So I love the fact that people are moving here. I love the fact that they're trying to get involved. I love the fact that they're even opponents of some things, because that's okay. At least you're fired up. Okay.
Right.
And that is the blessing. But I think because of what we're doing now, and we have, I believe, an inspired group like yours and an inspired city manager who's also infused that inspiration throughout City Hall. And I really believe that. I think we finally have somebody who is looking at this through a wide scope. It's just not hammer time. Let's go meet with them. Let's go talk to them. Let's get them to understand we're not here as their opponent. You're part of a city. We're embracing the whole city, not just sections of it. And while that whole thing works out that way, I think it's changed Northport forward too. I think it's really positioned Northport forward to be more of a caveat of information at a much more informative level, because the connection with City Hall, but also a much more enthusiastic place to go learn. And I think people need to know that. And I think they experienced that at that town hall.
Yes, and the information, we talk about misinformation. at Island Walk, that the first meet and mingle that we did, there was one thing that just came up while you were one of the residents there was concerned that, I live on a fixed income. I came down here to retire, and I find myself having to pay Sarasota taxes. I find myself having to pay Northport, the city of Northport taxes, and I find myself having to pay the improvement district, West Village's improvement district taxes. And they thought that the West Village's improvement district taxes were the city of Northport taxes. So why am I being doubly taxed from Northport? So the city manager again listened and very eloquently stated that the city of Northport has nothing to do with the West Village's improvement district. Now, when I came down here 9 years ago, I New Jersey, and I bought several homes in New Jersey. Each time, the builders put in the roads. They upgraded naturally the lots and stuff with sewer, water, and internet, so on and so forth. And so the price of my home and everybody else's home in that community reflects the initial work that the builder did to get that development graded and put in the utilities. And 3 or 4 homes that I did buy up in New Jersey were all the same. You paid the price for the home, and it included all of those upgrades, all of the utilities. Now, coming down here to Northport was a lesson, and not only Northport, in Florida alone, because what they do down here is the builders put in all of the upgrades, all of the utilities, and they open a bond, and they call it a CDD. It's a community development district, whereby the residents, you pay one price for the home, and then as part of your non-ad valorem, pay a portion of the CDD. Now, that's usually 25 or 30 years, depending on how it was set up. Now, so whether you pay it up front or you pay it sort of on the back end, it's like that Fram oil filter commercial, see me now or see me later, you're going to pay it. But the one plus out of the CDD is that if you sell your home, you don't have to pay off that whatever you paid up until that point. It's like the Liberty Mutual commercial, pay for what you need. If you live there 7 years, you pay for that for 7 years. When you leave, the new owners pick it up from that 8th year on forward. So that in itself is a bit of a blow. And I see that you put up what is the CDD. When I started to listen to the stuff that was coming out, whether it was on Facebook or whether it was in the newspaper or whether it was on next door, that's what we actually have. There are blogs on our website that talk about what is the CDD, as far as paying taxes, what is the services versus the property taxes that you pay. And in there, it talks about what a CDD is. It talks about what an HOA is. And the purpose of putting those out there is so that, again, is to inform our citizens as to, what they've gotten themselves into if they didn't ask up front, or prospective people that may want to move here. You can get a little bit of background, try to put this stuff in one place. Again, because people are busy working, some are working 2 jobs, raising a family, don't have time to do all this research, go out on the internet or read, an abundance of papers and whatnot. We're trying to put this information out there. So again, we have educated citizens that are familiar with what's going on, that we're sharing with the city the opportunities that are ahead for the city. And there's some challenges that, are in place that we have to, get over to be able to get to where we want to be. And again, that's being a resident experience. And, the city, Jerome talked about, the city is not for profit. The city is there to provide services. Their job is to provide the best quality services to their residents as possible, and to try to do without raising the millage rate, without raising the property taxes. Now, last year I think we had, because of the situation, I think with the pandemic, and a lot of people now migrating from the west coast of the United States, the Midwest, the Northeast, migrating here to Florida. We're getting 1,000 people coming into Florida per day. Our real estate has gone through the roof. You know that firsthand.
Absolutely.
Our rentals are going up. Just watched an episode of 60 Minutes where they talked about there's these big hedge funds buying up properties. They're paying what the people want, and people feel good about, hey, I got the most amount of money for my home, but then those homes are then refurbished, and then they're not selling them. They're literally locking out anybody that wants to buy a home. But what they're doing is they're charging rents that are unaffordable by a lot of people. We have young professionals here in Northport, and a lot of them working in hospitals, working in doctors' offices, and entrepreneurs running nonprofits and opening up different businesses here in Northport that can't afford to live here. They're living with parents. They're living with friends. And, this whole thing with the housing and whatnot is just exacerbated pretty much, the whole living conditions. And now there's a big call for workplace housing, workforce housing. So, yeah, getting back to, folks in Welland Park, people buying homes and coming from different areas, not aware of what a CDD was. So, yeah.
Well, and I've had that conversation with Barbara Langdon, Commissioner Langdon, about workforce housing. And we did a show on it, actually. And it was interesting because we had Homeless to Home on with her, and we're open to the dialogue. And the dialogue really got going. And really, what's amazing is we haven't looked at more mixed use commercial land pieces, because unless we do that, they got to come in and convert it first and get it rezoned. We should be proactively, if that's what we're talking about, then why aren't we fixing the zoning problem before somebody has to come in and say, well, you're not zoned right, so we didn't even look at you. So we got a problem with zoning that we absolutely need addressed almost ASAP if we need workforce housing. But it's sort of like and I love this dialogue that we're having right now, because it also gives you some ammunition to start having more dialogue too, because I've been having this pretty much by myself. There's a few other realtors out there that we've been discussing it every time we talk on the phone, and we're part of different organizations. But the funny thing is we're not in the position to make those phone calls, and we're not in those positions to start changing the commercial pieces. And I know that I can't wait to have another interesting conversation with Commissioner Langdon, because I know that she's very proactive. She wants to get things turned. But I wonder, and I'm wondering if you can find this out for me, how many commercial pieces that we have that we could actually do workforce housing on. If that might be a project for Northport to look into. Because if we're having a conversation about workforce housing, and I'll just stop here and let you talk, but if we're having
the commercial aspects of it, I know that, and I've said it now for a while, and I know the city is looking into economic development to bring good strategic commercial businesses here, because without it, if we just have residences, the city services cost more than the property taxes that they are collecting. So in essence, in order to be able to provide those services at the level that, they want to maintain good quality services in the city, they're going to have to raise property taxes. And, they're not happy about doing that. The city manager said, I would like to keep it, straight, at very little up and down, but in the same plane. The only way to do that is to have a proper balance of residential and commercial. Now, my understanding of General Development Corp plotting out residential lots, plotting out some commercial areas. There's I think it's activity centers here in the city. Okay, there's 5 districts for commission districts, but those activity centers each have a little bit of commercial. So the idea is to let's put good quality commercial there. But if we change, I think, the zoning to make it, mixed use, and then whatever little commercial land we have goes, so it's kind of offsetting that balance. I mean, I think a healthy balance, in my opinion, would be something that's at a minimum 80% residential versus 20% commercial. Now, people say, oh, commercial, we're going to have all these big buildings. No, we're not Sarasota. This has been pre-platted. We've only got a little bit of land. There's certain ordinances. There's we can only go a certain amount of height. This will never be Sarasota. But we need to take the burden off of the property tax owners and not just, let them pay for everything that, is needed to run the city.
Do you think, and I'm going to ask this question because it just kind of popped into my head. Do you think that maybe we need to have a open dialogue about how our tax base is set up differently than other cities, but what it means for the taxpayers if we don't get this right?
So you're talking about the percentages, the commercial versus the
Well, and why? And I mean, we've got about 7-8 minutes left, so we don't have enough time to do it now. We're hitting on, I think, a really hot topic though, is that I've been around a long time. I understand a lot of things about our town. I've come from Columbus, Ohio. Didn't have my roots in the ground there in the political side of things. So I learned about voting, the topics, and then I voted. I wasn't involved in politics. So we've got a lot of people here that may be used to doing that same thing. And they get down here and they're like, oh, well, I only have to vote down here because it doesn't matter. Okay, it does. We've proven that already. On top of that, I'm wondering if people actually understand the tax base burden of a city, because we don't teach that in school anymore. We don't highlight that anywhere in conversation. You can listen to your news and never find anything to educate you on what a city's going through to build itself. And unfortunately, we're trying to build ourselves.
Yes. Well, we're, the Carmine study and the real estate summit, Northport is forecasted to have rapid growth. And we are at a crossroad right now. We need to put a stake in the ground, put a foundation in the ground. And, we need to have the infrastructure. We need to have water and sewer to attract, number one, good businesses here that can provide skilled jobs. We've got 90% of our workforce leaving the city on a daily basis, and then they spend elsewhere called, residual. I forget the proper name for it, but it's all that residual spending that's going on in other counties where it could be spent here, and we can better ourselves here. So, there's a lot that needs to be thought about. Again, if you look on Northport blogs, is what property taxes are collected, and it's property taxes versus city services. And it talks about specific numbers of how much it actually costs to provide what the city provides. Now, this is not based on Northport. This is, I forget, it might be Jacksonville, but it talks about the percent of services that are provided by the city based, and also the percent of the money, the property taxes that it uses for those services. And then with commercial, what that proportion is. And it makes sense. Let's see what you got here. I think it's on the right, how the services that the city provides is paid for. So if you go to this blog and then click on learn more, it's kind of blurry on your screen, but if people look at this this blog and it's got a picture of property tax, it gives you a little insight into, you know, what is what the city services cost versus the property tax dollars that are collected versus the residential property tax dollars versus the commercial property tax dollars, and what the city services cost for commercial. So the city actually can recoup some of those residential service dollars that are not, you know, fully funded by the residential property tax owners, but you need a good mix so that the city is running on all cylinders and can provide the level of service to its citizens, and that's what they're all about. So, but yeah, I wish people would check out our site and take a look at what we actually have there.
Well, and you know, I think that more people are doing that. I really do. There's a lot of things that you are doing now to engage with the community at a I think a different level. But I've got one question that I want to get out to you because we've got about 2 or 3 minutes left, and let's see. It is from Chuck English. Should cities be turning park land into housing?
No, because there is a lot of land in Florida. Number one. Number two, the city, you know, talks about, the city manager talked about in these presentations about the 6 pillars. And he talks about safe community, quality of life, and economic development and growth management, environmental resiliency and sustainability, infrastructure and facilities integration, and good governance. The one about quality of life, if you look at all of the cities across the United States, having parks is a big in why people come to live in a city or live in a town or live in a state. That quality of life, having a park to either play ball in, play soccer, baseball, whatever that may be, you know, go around on an ATV and be in the midst of nature, to do a little bit of fishing. People need that. People look at the quality of life in cities before the decision to come here. Actually, it's, you know, housing, houses of worship, medical facilities, jobs, and then quality of life is right up there. So right. It's important to have that. I would not recommend, you know, that that we convert unless it's unless we're in an emergency state where we need to do something like that. I think maintaining the parks. I don't think we need to put any more parks in. I think we should take care of the ones that we have. And, you know, a lot of people complain that, well, parks don't pay for themselves. Well, that's not what the parks are for. The parks are for the quality of life for the residents. You can do other things. Like, I'll take New York City. You got Central Park. That must cost an arm and a leg. But guess what? They don't charge people to come and walk through the park or sit there. It's the commercial aspects of what's in New York City, between the shopping, department stores, restaurants, all of the businesses that are there that offset the quality of life parks. So
Well, it's Friday at 3:59 and we got to go. So you're listening to John Rawlings with WKDW Radio 97.5 FM. And Carmine, truthfully, Northport Ford is really getting it done. I look forward to talking to you next month on the third Friday of the month. But we've got to go. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Pleasure
You're
to
very
meet
welcome.
you, John.
Talk to you soon, my friend.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye now.